Hello, welcome to the Telusk Forum. This is our 11th edition and my name's Julian Steadman. I'm one of the lay ministers in this area. I don't know about you, but we were able to get out this weekend and travel a little bit. Nice to have some freedom, and we went over the border to Kington to lovely gardens, the Hargist Croft Gardens, and the photographs of flowers that are on the programme have come from those lovely gardens. As usual, we got several contributors today. Ali talks to Sally about the way India has been facing up to the challenges of the pandemic in that country. Then we enjoy another one of the Bevan's prayer spaces. Then I talk to Dr. Carl about the mental and physical benefits we can gain from taking exercise. And finally, Mairwen brings us a worship song which the large family has recorded for us. Enjoy the programme.
Hello, today I'm going to be speaking to Sally. Sally has been a GP and she's worked in public health. She's married to Dr. Carl, so it's a medical programme today. And Carl and Sally have worked in India, and she's going to tell us a little bit about their work in India and how things are at the moment. So Sally, could you briefly tell us what Carl and you were doing in India before you came back to the UK before lockdown?
Yes, hi Alison, hi everyone. Yes, for the last 10 years, since 2011, Carl and I have been working in Hyderabad in South India with an Indian charity, and our role was to support a community health worker program. Now this program supported between 70 and 80 health workers working in schools actually throughout India. And the schools are English medium schools with the aim of providing English medium education to children in poor and marginalised communities. And the role of the health workers was, yes, to provide some first level health care to the children, their families, and also to their communities, but primarily to provide them with education and skills about staying healthy. So it was really about prevention, and still is, and that's what it is. And we're passionate about it. We really believe in prevention for so many reasons. But I think the current situation has really highlighted the fundamental importance of understanding what health behaviours we can all adopt in order to prevent getting sick. And I think in India there's another layer to that, because we're dealing with a condition now in our country where you realise there are illnesses where there is no cure. But if we got ill with illness with a cure, we could go to the health service and expect to get that cure. But there, for many people, healthcare is not available, either because it's not there or because it's too expensive and people can't afford it. So it's so important for these people to understand what they can do to prevent getting sick. That's what the program's all about. We've been involved at lots of different levels over the years, and we've grown to know and love our health workers and the team of 2 in Hyderabad that support them. They're our family, really. But latterly, our role mainly has been in training trainers, and getting the program to a position whereby it runs itself. So it's not dependent on us in any way, and they have the tools really to run that programme without our input. So that's where we are.
Now, since you've been home, I think you said to me you still feel part of your team.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's anything positive, and I really don't know that there is much positive about COVID, for us, the fact that everything's moved into virtual platforms, of course, has been lovely for us with our Indian connection, because everybody in India, our team, are working remotely now, and the office has moved to a virtual platform. So we're very much part of that programme. So we're continuing to meet our health workers, our trainers, not all the 70 health workers, the 10 trainers every week. I attend the office meeting every week, and we're involved in setting up a new project that we're meeting every week. So we're still very much involved. There's 3 particular areas. The first is continuing training, around the COVID messaging. So Carl has produced visual aids, and we've managed to share those using Google Hangouts. So we're learning ourselves, and they're learning, and it's amazing to be doing presentations with people in remote areas under trees in rural conditions in India. So we've done that. And the organisation is setting up a telemedicine project around providing medical expertise remotely. So we're training 6 health workers to be the spoke, if you like, of that, to bring cases to a virtual clinic, and then those cases can be connected to doctors working in Hyderabad. And then the third element, I think, is just continuing to be part of the team, and we're all encouraging each other.
In the news, we read that the COVID has had an impact on India later than Europe, and the numbers are rising.
I think what we've seen very much ourselves in this country, that this is we all know it's a very difficult disease, so we will never know, wherever we are, the exact numbers, because there are many cases where, or at least there are cases, and we don't know how many, where there are never any symptoms to prompt testing. So that's a problem all over, and as we experienced and saw very keenly in this country, that if testing isn't available, then that will limit your capability of knowing how many positive cases you have. But in India, I think availability is perhaps more of an issue for the test, because there's a cost involved to the test, which obviously is going to be prohibitive to people. I mean, they are free testing, but there's issues around that as well, because there's a lot of fear and stigma that will mean that people don't want to come forward for testing in case they're removed from their communities. When there was space in the hospitals, they were compulsorily removed into government hospitals. That's not happening now because the hospitals are full, but there's still a lot of fear around accessing tests. And then, of course, if they can't work, they don't get any money. So there's a lot of things that mean that people may not come forward for testing. And then there's obviously the quality of the test itself and how accurate it is, and that's going to vary. But there may be issues that in countries where there's not so much quality control. So I think that the cases are rising means that the problem is increasing, definitely getting much worse. Yeah, and that is in the healthcare system, but it may be a lot worse than we know.
So how are hospitals coping?
So the latest things that we're hearing from our friends and the team in India is that the government hospitals where the COVID cases are supposed to be going are now full. And so that's obviously very difficult. The doctors that we know there are saying that it is really affecting their workload. So I think that they are seeing that rush and that impact on workload of COVID positive or COVID suspected cases. I think the wider impact of COVID, though, is which affects many people. For the communities in India, there are no safety nets for so many people. So access to healthcare for people who don't have, who have other problems. They're trying to keep private hospitals COVID free, but that means that the private hospitals are very frightened of taking anyone because they're worried about COVID. So we were hearing issues around needing COVID certificates, which cost money to say that you haven't got COVID. Then there's the whole issue of cost and how doctors are charging more for their telemedicine consultations because they lost money, because it's a private system, and if people won't go to the doctor, they're going to lose money. So they're trying to recoup that. So the costs have gone up in some areas. And then there's a whole area of travel and lockdowns, which has meant that people can't actually get healthcare even if they need it. So there's big problems with access. I think the fear and the stigma attached to the illness has been a real problem, and we've had stories of people who've just been left who were ill because people were too frightened to go and help them, and then there's the whole issue of being ostracized in society. So that's very, very difficult in that situation. And then the whole issue of poverty for people who depend on daily wages, who can't work, and then acute food poverty when that happens impacts these poor communities in India and in other similar countries all over the world. And so that the relief programs that we've heard of other organisations running, and our organisation is actively involved, our teams are running these programs, the food parcels, that's vital, because there's no other way these people can buy provisions, even if the provisions are there. So our team is actively involved in distributing food parcels, and that's an ongoing programme because the situation isn't really improving, and as the case numbers go up, different states are imposing different lockdowns, so it's an ongoing and likely to really hit the people who have got the greatest the greatest problem, the greatest poverty, are going to be hit worse than
Yes, well, thank you. I really appreciate having a better understanding of how things are in India.
Thank you for having us, Alison, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello everyone. This, and it's full of bubbles. I stir it. Make much more. The bubbles come out inside it all the time. Things bubble up from inside us all the time. Some of these things are not so good. Let's, in our activity today, blow out some of these things. And then let's breathe in something better.
For this, we need to clear a bit of floor and put down a mat which is waterproof to stop the carpet from getting wet. This is a picnic mat from the supermarket. When you put down a tray, we get a cup. We can put some water, some washing up liquid in the cup. Then we cover the cup with a piece of J cloth. And take it off a roll, or use one you've already got. And then hold it on there with an elastic band. With a pair of scissors, hold the cup firmly and just make a little hole in the top. And with a straw, put that through the hole. Now, before we begin, just relax a minute and we just think, what inside of us are we having to deal with? What would we like to blow out? And when we're ready, we can start to blow out anger, fear, loneliness, frustration, resentment, bitterness. Wow. Then when we lean back, we can just think to ourselves, help me. Please help me. Blow out the bad and breathe in the good. So let's do it again. Take a cup, put in some water, some washing up liquid. Put the cloth over the cup. Hold it in place with an elastic band. Holding it firmly, make a little hole in the top. Put straw through, and then think, what do we want to blow out? Let's blow it out. Frustration, loneliness, grief, loss. All the things we're missing, all those feelings which bubble up inside of us. Let's blow them out. Let's think, help me. Please, help me.
Last week we talked about relationships and our social networks, and this week I wanted to focus on the benefits of exercise. And actually, I think this is one of the things which COVID has done for us as a nation. Is it's made us think about a daily routine of doing some sort of exercise every day. So the government advice has been, well, you're allowed to go out and take a little bit of exercise, and that's made people who perhaps wouldn't have thought about it before begin to think, well, how am I going to be able to build exercise into my routine? And I hope now that we're experiencing a more, going back to what it was before, that we won't lose that enthusiasm to make sure that exercise is part of our daily routine.
So exercise, I mean, in what way do you think it's beneficial?
Doctors, I hope, have been promoting exercise for a long time because it's a really beneficial thing for your health. And we know that when we're exercising, our brains release chemicals called endorphins into the brain, which make you feel better. They make you feel happier. They make you feel more relaxed. They're natural painkillers. And so we know that doing exercise really helps your mental health. It sort of feeds back happiness into a situation where perhaps you were feeling stressed or depressed before. It can really help those sort of situations. And we've been saying that sort of 30 minutes of exercise every day, that's really good for your mental health. And we know as well that exercise helps you sleep. And I think we talked about that last week.
Mental health's one thing, but are there other benefits, perhaps physically as well as mentally?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we're perhaps more used to thinking about physical exercise as something we do for our bodies. So it's good to remember it helps the mind as well. But of course, it keeps your muscles in good condition. And, that helps your joints because, most joints are supported by muscles. So, for example, if your knees are a problem, if you've got arthritis there, then building up good, strong muscles means that the joints get a bit of a break. And that's why physio is recommended for people with arthritis. And not only that, but when we are exercising, our circulation is stimulated. So blood is going around the body. And that makes us feel a bit invigorated. It means that instead of the blood being a bit stagnant and under-oxygenated, it gets much more oxygen flowing around the system and all the parts of our body like oxygen. So it actually makes us feel invigorated. A lot of people say, oh, doctor, I've got no energy to take exercise. But actually taking exercise gives you energy. And of course, it helps your weight if you are burning up calories. And that helps your blood pressure, your sugar levels, and also your risk of heart disease and stroke. And we also know that doing lots of exercise reduces your blood pressure and has so many really important physical benefits.
There are lots of different ways of exercising, aren't there? Is there any difference between the sorts of exercise we take, and have you got any suggestions as to which is the ones we should go for?
Yeah, well, I think in all variety is the spice of life, and it's probably the same with exercise. Broadly, there are two things to remember about exercise. Things like walking and swimming and running, they tend to benefit the circulation and the muscle. Mainly the circulation on our physical energy levels. And then things that involve us pushing weights or doing specific exercises with our arms and legs, they can work on in individual muscles. And so when you're walking, your arms don't get much of a workout. When you're doing things around the house or in the garden, then your arms get and your back gets more of a workout. So it's trying to remember walking and running, that's good for your heart. And anything that uses muscular strength is good for your muscles. And trying to get a balance is probably the best. But you need to be safe when you're doing exercise. So I normally say to people, look, walking is a very safe type of exercise. Running is a good sort of exercise. But rock climbing or, sort of things like that, you probably need to make sure you're safe to do that before you, launch off into those types of exercises. But most of us can do something to increase our energy expenditure during the day.
So have you got any particular tips?
Well, I think first thing to say is whatever you're doing at the moment, doing more exercise is probably a good thing to be aiming at. We should all be aiming to be as active as we possibly can. And I normally say start slow, don't do too much, otherwise you might get to pull a muscle or get discouraged or whatever. And the government say you need to do 30 minutes of exercise a day. If you can't manage 30 minutes, then break it down into 10-minute sessions and have smaller sessions a couple of times in the day. But just make a start. Don't be discouraged by 30 minutes is too much. Well, then start with 10 minutes and build yourself up to the 30 minutes. And start with the normal activities of the day. Well, stand up when you have your coffee break, or if someone speaks to you on the phone, instead of relaxing in a chair, stand up and walk about with the phone, and you'll be surprised how much exercise you'll get if you just did those very simple little things. Obviously walk rather than drive if you can, and maybe take up some physical hobbies. If you haven't been interested in doing some gardening work, begin to do something in the garden or something around the house which involves you DIY. And then this fits into last week. Make your exercise social. So try and meet up with a friend and go for a walk together, or even use Zoom or the internet to do exercises together. You don't have to buy expensive equipment. 1 kilogram, a liter of water weighs a kilogram, so you don't have to buy any expensive weights. You can start off with 1 or 2 liter bottles and do some exercises with those, and do that with your friends over Zoom, and you'll have a great laugh, and you'll also keep fit together.
Great.
And then keep track. You're probably like this if you go for a run. How fast did I go? Did I go further than last week? Was it easier? Keep track of yourself. Count your steps with a pedometer. You've got these Fitbits. Time yourself. And then not only will you get the reward of the exercise, but you'll also get the reward of the achievement and seeing yourself improve. And that's very beneficial for resilience as well. And then treat yourself. Have a nice warm bath after you've done your exercise, or do it playing nice relaxing music or some sort of treat. And my final tip really is schedule it in. So don't leave it up to when the feeling comes on you, because the feeling won't normally come on you. You have to schedule it into your day. So say, well, look, before my lunch I'll go for a walk, or just in a certain time of the day, I'll do this much exercise, or just I'll go for a walk up and down my garden once every hour. Just something that you can have a little target for yourself, and it's a schedule, part of your routine. So if you do those sort of things, I think a number of things will happen. The first thing is that you'll build in good habits. And that means that they're there in your life, and they'll protect you from getting depressed and anxious. And when you are depressed and anxious, you can lead into those habits and improve on them and develop them. And also there'll be an encouragement for you to build relationships, and take an interest in your physical health. But yes, we can all report to each other once a week when we have our Zoom coffee mornings in the church, how we're doing with our steps or our exercise, and encourage one another to just do that little bit more.
The song that we'd like to present to you today is called Cornerstone, and it's an arrangement of some very old words by Hillsong, Australia. Originally, My Hope is Built on Nothing Less. It was written by Edward Mote in 1837. When you hear the title Cornerstone, you might be thinking about the words, Christ is our cornerstone. That phrase is found in Isaiah and also in Psalm 118. Verse 2 there says, the stone that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. And we take it to refer to Jesus. And when Peter appears before the Sanhedrin in Acts chapter 4, he cites the words from Psalm 118 and he says, this Jesus is the stone that was rejected by you, the builders. It has become the cornerstone. The words of the verses focus on the theme of building our hope and trust in Jesus, who through his death on the cross has set us free from the power of sin and put us right with God. We should not put our trust in any earthly thing, in money, success, power, good health, or anything else. Just trust in the name of the Lord. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. When darkness seems to hide his face, I rest on his unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. A reminder that through the challenging times in our lives, God is a constant refuge. And we can always trust in him when we turn to him in prayer.
My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Saviour's love. Through the storm, he is Lord, Lord of all. When darkness seems to hide his face, I rest on his unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. My anchor holds within the veil. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Saviour's love. Through the storm, he is Lord, Lord of all. When he shall come with trumpet sound, oh, may I then in him be found. trust in his righteousness alone. Faultless stand before the throne.